Yeah, I apparently lied. I also thought I was done for 2023, but I can't stop reading. So, no, but seriously, I legitimately, genuinely thought that House of Leaves would be my last book of the year. I promise. But in as much as I was so overwhelmed by the time it took for me to finish that book, I, I, I was so surprised that I still have some time left. And I can't stop reading. I need to still read something, which is always a great thing, right? The complete opposite of a reading slump. I need to read something still. Is it just me, or is it always such a fantastic feeling to look at your shelf and pick what you're in the mood for? It's so nice, right? I am in the mood for, dare I say it, romance? So I was actually looking up my romance books on my shelves, and I cannot decide. I've got a lot of my Emily Henry books, and I'm so tempted to pick one and match what happened last year because I ended last year with Book Lovers, right? And it ended becoming my number one favorite book of the year. So, uh, but it's so odd. I already have so many 5 stars for 2023 that I don't want to have another one. I, it's always a nice thing to have, of course, a 5 star book. It's a victory. Who doesn't want that, right? But I'm already having such a difficult time picking my best of the best, my favorites for the year end wrap up. So I don't want to have further headache on that. I just really want to have a good time. So, I really want to just. So there I go again, reflecting on what I need to pay attention to again. And I realized that I still could read short story collection books because I still have a couple of that on my unread TBR. So it's about time. And I do believe I've found a really good pick. This is dark romance, I think, from the title of the collection, Kisses and Curses. I think this is dark romance, fantasy, romantasy, as it's currently trending right now, right? Romantasy. This is not really that recent. I looked it up and this came out 2015. So it's not really that new, but I'm still very, very excited. Also, to put a spin on it, I decided that what I would do, here's one thing that I could recommend for making yourself invested in short story collection books. I've already done this on an earlier reading vlog for an Abby Jimenez book, and I thought it would be a good thing to do for a short story collection book. I'm gonna pick a song that I think would be a good soundtrack for every short story, or even a movie or any kind of show that I think gives me the same vibe, and make recommendations. I'm excited. I've read 7 stories so far, and since this collection is comprised of 14 stories, I'm officially halfway through, right? 7 down, 7 more to go. I'm having a good time. It's a good collection of stories. It's just that I can definitely understand now why some people gave negative reviews of this collection. I am enjoying it, but I can definitely see where people who didn't like this or didn't love this are coming from. I get it. I will say it's not really entirely the writer's fault. I think it has something to do with, I don't know, the title and the marketing of this book. It kind of gives this kind of expectations being set that this is, dark fantasy romance-ish. That's what I said on my initial preface introduction of this book, right? And I was specifically stating that I was craving that I was in the mood for that romance. And you know what? not all the books are focused on romance. So I think that's what a lot of people's problems are about this collection. I like it because I'm getting something that I was not anticipating I would get. So it's a great surprise. So it's kind of bittersweet because um, I'm not 100% getting what I came here for, but I'm getting a pleasant surprise that I was not at all expecting. So I'll just briefly discuss my thoughts and feelings about the stories, and as I go along, I'll tell you my song recommendations. It's a very strong beginning. They really started with Marissa Meyer. If you have read the Cinder series, I love that series. I'm not really a big fantasy reader, but I love that collection so much. So I love Marissa Meyer. Her story here is hinging on that world, on that universe. The story is Glitches. And I love that it focused on family, particularly the dynamics of a child being introduced to her foster family. So it's very unique that way. My song recommendations for Glitches would be What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish. Oh my goodness, the vibe of that song fits the story so much. And also Ilaw by SB19 or Mahalima as we call them now. The feelings, oh. Second story is Bridge of Snow by Mary Rutkowski, and this is yet another one of the short stories here that is based on a universe or a world of a fantasy work that they have already published earlier. And it's good. It's good. It just really feels like the first chapter of a story that's supposed to be longer. You get what I mean? So it's good. It's just that I feel like it could be longer. And just like Glitches, instead of a romance, it also focused on family relationships, particularly sibling dynamics. So it's good. It's good. There's just really no romance. It's probably a lot of people's problem. Song recommendation for Bridge of Snow would be Black Tie by Jeff Satter. The vibe of that song fits the world building of the story, and as far as the sentiments concerned, I would recommend Hatid by The Ones. I'm getting emotional recommending Filipino songs. The third story, Dynamite Jr. by Jennifer Matthew, is yet another one that's not really romance, but sibling dynamics. One important thing about that story is that it's not even fantasy. It's contemporary, and apart from the sibling dynamic, it focuses on school friendships and something really hard-hitting. So contemporary YA. My song recommendations for Dynamite Jr. would be kind of spoilery, as much as I don't want to spoil what happened. I mean, can you not say from the title? But anyway, my song recommendations for this would be I'm Tired by Zendaya and Labyrinth. So also Meant to Live by Switchfoot. So if you're getting a picture in your head, yeah, you probably already know. The fourth story, Monster Crush by Emily Laybourne and Anna Banks, would perhaps be the closest thing to a fantasy romance in this collection so far. On the 7 stories that I've read, that is the one heaviest into romance and fantasy. Not really completely fantasy, it has some contemporary setting because it's fantasy between a person and a monster, a Sasquatch. I think what I like best about Monster Crush is how it kind of gave some really funny insight, sort of throwing shade about some tropes about romance. But yeah, I would say for my song recommendations here, I would recommend Bite Me by Enhypen. Bite Me is definitely one of my most overplayed songs of the year. it could end up on one of my year-end Spotify wrapped up. Anyway, and also Every Day by Ariana Grande and Future. Fixer by Courtney Alameda is, yes, a fantasy romance. And it's also kind of hard-hitting. It has some heavy themes explored. Yeah, it's got one of the heaviest themes on the stories I've read so far. It's great. I liked it. And for the song recommendations for that story, I would recommend Ayos Lang Yan by Hero, and also Die For You by Dean. Dean recently came back after taking such a long break, right? So do with it what you will. The song recommendations kind of alludes already to what the story is about. So yeah, Fixer. The sixth story in the collection that I've read so far, Unstolen by Jessica Brody. I will say out of the 7 stories I've read so far, that will be my top favorite if I'm gonna rank them. I was so impressed. And this is the first time that I'm reading Jessica Brody, so it's the kind of introduction to an author which really pulls you in and invites you to check out their past works. Because, oh my goodness, I really love the insights that she shared about her writing process. By the way, that's one of the things that I love best on this collection, because there's always an introduction of it's written by authors, and it gives you an idea of what inspired them to write their stories, right? And Jessica Brody, the way she introduced Unstolen really intrigued me so much. And the actual story itself, impressive. It's so sad, it's heartbreaking, and at the same time horrifying. So it really gave me goosebumps. And it's a complete, solid short story. That's what I love best. Song recommendation for Unstolen, Just Us by James Arthur. James Arthur, one of my all-time favorite singers. Always love all of his songs. And also, You'll Be Safe Here. I've been jamming to that song for as long as I could remember. But for this one, I'll pick the cover made by Ari. And can I reveal this? That song is one of my frequent accompanying melody when I'm writing my story. But yeah, I think those 2 songs would kind of give you a good accompaniment, a good vibe setter for the story, Unstolen. The 7th story is Secret Heart by Anna Aguirre. It's the most recent one that I finished. And sadly, it's my least favorite so far. It's fantasy. It's still really good. It's just that out of all the stories that I've read so far, it's yet another one of those first chapter kind of stories where I feel like you want to read more. You want to read more of that world. So, it's still a compliment. You still want to read more. It just didn't feel like it's completely a short story. You get what I mean? But yeah, it's romance. It's fantasy, for sure. Song rec, Smile Again by Black Bear, and Stay by The Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber. And we're moving along. 7 more stories to go. So, see you later.
Yeah, who says I cannot have a Valentine's date with myself December of the year?
Finally finished Kisses and Curses, and wow! As we approach the end of the year, a lot of crazy things are happening, right? Wow! Not really gonna talk about those since we've all seen the trends, we've all watched the news, so we're aware. But one thing that I really wasn't expecting that would happen in the process of reading this book is how it will align to the Spotify year-end Wrapped being released at the moment that I finished reading this. I promise, I really wasn't thinking of aligning this, thinking that it would be matching the time that the Spotify year-end wrap would come out. I really wasn't planning to. So, what perfect alignment, indeed. Wow. Okay, universe. Okay, universe. Anyway, I'm very, very happy to report that the second half of this collection are stories that I enjoyed more than the first half. So, the second half of this short story collection is more competitive than the first half. I'm gonna go into details about that, right? But first, I wanted to say a disclaimer. I'm gonna talk about the second half of this collection by ruffling the sequence a little bit. I'm not gonna talk about them according to their chronological order because I wanted to minimize the back and forth. So I would lump together some of the stories while I tell you my thoughts about them, okay? Story number 8 is Death and Waffles by Lish McBride. And what a very, very strong way to kick this off. Because I do believe that Dead and Waffles might be my favorite piece in this collection. It's the kind of story that really makes me want to go look back at Lish McBride's past works. Because, wow, she's so good. I was really, really surprised by how that story unfolded. I was so impressed. So I'm not talking about the plot of Death and Waffles, right? But if you want to check the vibe of how the story made me feel, and probably what it's about, you can check out Gone by NF. NF ended as my 2023 Artist of the Year on my Spotify Wrap. And I cannot deny, I won't deny, I heavily listened to his works this year. True, yes. I just really want to flex and brag about this. My song of the year, my number one song of 2023 according to Spotify Wrap, is Wildflower by RM. Oh, I love him so much, okay? I love him. But for Dead and Waffles, I think I'm going to assign Moonchild. Yet another one of my favorite pieces of RM. So, yeah, Gone by NF and Moonchild by RM. Moving on. The next story is what's very appropriately called Deleted Scenes. This is from Katie Finn's book. The title is Broken Hearts, Fences, and Other Things to Mend. So, it's a story based on what the editor has decided not to include on the release of that book. And I just love it so much when writers stand their ground on what they wanted to release. Because Katie Finn strongly felt that this part of the story of that world in that book that she released should be released. So, and I appreciate it so much because I enjoyed it. It's so heartwarming to see that writers, authors can still have platforms like this where they can release significant parts of the story that they crafted, which they felt deserve to be seen and heard. I really enjoyed that. For this, I'm gonna pick NVMD or Nevermind by Denise Julia, and also Complicated by Avril Lavigne. So yeah, It's giving me that old school vibe, not in a bad way, but more like in a nostalgic kind of feeling, if you get what I mean. So, and then Tortured by Karag M. O'Brien. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, I feel like out of the entire second half of the book, that might be my least favorite. I mean, it's still better compared to most of the works on the first half, but I don't know. It just happens that the other pieces on the second half are very, very powerful. But I still enjoy that. The songs that I would dedicate for that story, The Less I Know The Better by Tame Impala. Don't feel like that's how I felt towards the story, alright? I just feel like the message of that song resonates with the vibe of that story. And then After the Storm by Kaliochi featuring Tyler, the creator. So, the next three stories that I'm gonna discuss, I've lumped them together because they are fantastic historical fiction stories. And if you know me, I'm big on historical fiction. And these stories, I'm very, very delighted because they really further express why I love historical fiction. Crisis by Lindsay Smith, I particularly enjoyed because of how beautifully designed the characters were. Lindsay Smith really did that, and wow, I was rooting for them, you know? I've honestly thought of quite a few heartbreaking songs as I was reading Crisis, however you call it, but I think I'll be selecting Roots by Army Malyari. And Army Malyari is popular for being the vocalist of Up Dharma Down, right? Really well known. And then All I Ask by Adele. Blue Moon by Nikki Kelly, another fantastic historical fiction story. And this one I am specifically obsessed with. My favorite thing about it would be Nikki Kelly's writing. Her writing is gorgeous. Wow! Wow! The lines on that story, wow. The songs that I pick for Blue Moon could be Something by Ben and Ben and Fictional by Chloe Rose. Those songs are good for having a chill, cozy, lying down evening, right? Which is how Blue Moon felt like to me. And then The Cypress Project by Jennifer Albin. No question, it's like the longest short story in this collection, and I guess rightfully so, because it's the historical fiction kind that makes me fall in love with world building. If I struggle with loving world building in fantasy, in historical fiction, I have no trouble doing so. And The Cypress Project is a good testament to that. I guess I will pick You're Losing Me by Taylor Swift, and then The End of All Things by Panic at the Disco. The last story in the collection is The Too Clever Fox by Leigh Bardugo, and I honestly believe that they intentionally saved the finale for her. One thing about Leigh Bardugo that I admire so much is how she's so unpredictable, and I think that short story is a good example of that. It's kind of a magical realism piece of work, and does it feature a romance? It's hard to say, because Leigh Bardugo works like that. Her masterpieces cannot be caged in a box. She always goes outside the box. For Too Clever Fox, the songs that I pick would be Feather by Sabrina Carpenter and Mana by SB19. I love it that we're gonna finish the year off positively for SB19. Our Mahalima deserves the best, of course. And Mana is one of my favorite songs of SB19, and I think that'll be fitting for this story. So give it a listen. And that's a wrap. Don't you just love it when short story collection books give you this sort of delusional feeling that you're something like a judge in a competition, in a contest, because you can rank your favorites? Kisses and Curses, a very beautifully diverse and colorful collection of stories. Will this make it to my year-end best of the best for 2023? No, but still, what a very good experience, a good reading experience nonetheless. Sending you kisses and best wishes, okay? Best wishes always.